Oh, there is a party in New Orleans. Oh, yeah. Let me just take a moment and say thank you to Joe Domino. He is a great fella and slipped across there. I asked him if they checked him real good before he came over here. And he's from over in Beaumont and did a great job. It is awesome to be in Louisiana. Let me tell you, home of what I consider to be one of the really great governors, a dear friend of mine, a Republican leader, Bobby Jindal. Let me tell you, everywhere you look in the state, you see the evidence of his leadership. I mean, this guy is a real competitor. He's a winner. But, Bobby, I just want to kind of leave you with one thing here. Leave our football players alone across the border, all right? Just give me some professional courtesy here. Don't take them all. You know, on a serious note, Governor Jindal is showing folks that conservative principles are not just sensible, but they're truly compassionate. They're truly effective. You know, flying into New Orleans this morning, one can't help to reflect. Anita and I were just looking out the window as we were coming in and thinking about the destruction that visited the city when Hurricane Katrina came through, and you know, and just this amazing story of the human spirit, and it's given this town back its vitality and its feeling, and this place is thriving again. And you know, there's been a lot of talk in this town and across the country about the government's responsibility in a recovery for a disaster. And government certainly has a very important role to play. But the real recovery comes as a result of individuals taking ownership and doing the hard work and making the things happen. You know, unfortunately, this administration in Washington that's in power now clearly believes that government is not only the answer to every need, but it's the most qualified to make essential decisions for every American in every area. That mix of arrogance and audacity that guides the Obama administration is an affront to every freedom-loving American and a threat to every private sector job in this country. You know, whether they're seeking to punish a company like Boeing that's wanting to go into South Carolina, they're pressuring company leadership in Forest Laboratories in New York, imposing EPA mandates that will kill jobs right here in Louisiana. They clearly think that they know best. And let me tell you, I vehemently disagree. They don't know best. You know, I happen to believe that our nation was built on the shoulders of working people, folks who reached our shores in search of religious and economic freedom. They and the generations that followed embraced the risk and the rewards of freedom. They tilled the land, they built the factories, they pursued innovation. They helped create a nation unlike any that the earth has ever seen. Now, unfortunately, the liberty that inspired our fledgling nation to throw off the chains of oppression, a nation that's been a magnet for immigrants all over the years, it's been the essence of the American dream. It's being constricted daily by new regulations, obligations that seek to empower government, not the people. We now live in this strange version of our founding fathers' vision in which government of the people, by the people, for the people is little more than this outdated notion, not very welcome in today's Washington. Instead, we have these so-called leaders who ramrod unread health care legislation through the system without revealing the true cost or admitting it will ultimately make the federal government the sole arbitrator and administrator of health care. Instead, we have these so-called leaders who would rather pour bailout monies on companies that are too big to fail than make changes that would free up small businesses to create real jobs and real wealth. Instead, we have this entitlement culture in our nation that dictates government spending based on what bureaucrats think they deserve rather than what the people can afford. Do you really believe this is what our founding fathers had in mind? You know, as I think of their writings, of the risk that they took in the name of freedom, the sacrifices of generations of Americans who have shared those ideals, I begin to wonder, what will our legacy be? Will history view us as the generation of Americans that kind of collectively shrugged their shoulders and said, well, I guess there's nothing that I can do? Will we just watch our nation continue this slow backward slide? Will future generations of Americans living a life without any direction or decision that's not made by some bureaucrat wonder, why didn't somebody do something? You see, I've got more confidence in America's energy and character. I totally believe it's time to reconnect with the greatest attributes of our nation, to regain that resilient spirit and recapture that love of freedom, remembering its true price. And it doesn't matter what your zip code is or where you're from, we're all facing the same challenges in America. I stand before you today a disciplined, conservative Texan, a committed Republican, and a proud American, united with you in the desire to restore our nation and revive the American dream. I believe with all my heart that our shared conservative values, that our belief in the individual is the great hope of our nation. I say that with confidence because I've seen what we've done in Texas over the last 10 years. I credit our conservative leadership in that state for unmatched job creation, including a 47.8% of all jobs created in America in the last 2 years. Yeah, I gotta brag a little bit on Texas conservative values just a bit. We're the #1 exporting state in the nation. We got a balanced budget to boot. And let me tell you, that's what happens. That's what happens when conservative leadership that is willing to take a beating from the liberal left and their friends in the media. You know, we happen to be a bunch of happy warriors that are working together. We're sticking to our guns and those conservative values. I've distilled my economic agenda down into what I consider to be some pretty simple guiding principles. #1 is don't spend all the money. #2 is keep the taxes low and under control. 3 is have regulations that are fair and predictable so that business owners know what to expect from one quarter to the next. And #4, reform the legal system so that frivolous lawsuits don't paralyze employers that are trying to create real wealth. That's what we've done. Over the last 10 years, we have followed that simple recipe. We've stopped lawsuit abuse. We have one of the lowest tax burdens in the nation. Our per capita debt is limited. And we keep adding jobs while others are losing them left and right. Those jobs flee other states because of factors like excessive taxation, punitive regulation, frivolous lawsuits. To preserve our job-friendly climate, the Texas legislature didn't raise taxes this last legislative session while balancing their budget and maintaining essential services. And I might add, that new budget leaves $6 billion in a rainy day fund. In Texas, we truly believe that you can't defer tough decisions for tomorrow's generation. And unlike Washington, we don't have some foreign creditor to finance deficit spending either. Last month, Texas made sure that frivolous lawsuits have even less chance of strangling job creation as we passed loser pays lawsuit reform in the state of Texas. And to make sure that votes are never canceled out by illegal votes, we instituted a photo ID requirement for every voter in the state of Texas. See, when it comes to voting, one of the most precious, most powerful freedoms that we have, it is precious to us. And don't you think it's fair to apply at least the same standard required to get a library card or to board an airplane? Our legislators also protected the sanctity of life with a bill that requires a sonogram on those contemplating abortion. Think about this for just a second. When liberals talk about protecting our most vulnerable populations, I don't understand why they won't include the most vulnerable, those innocent, unborn children. When it comes to conservative social issues, it saddens me when sometimes my fellow Republicans duck and cover in the face of pressure from the left. I'm reminded of what President Ronald Reagan said at CPAC in 1977. I want to quote him for you, prior to his winning the presidency, of course. But he said, "The time has come for us to see if it's possible to present a program of action based on political principle that can attract those interested in the so-called social issues and those interested in the economic issues. In short, isn't it possible to combine the two major issues, those two major segments of contemporary American conservatism into one politically effective whole?" I believe the answer is yes. Well, Mr. President, I agree with you. The answer is most definitely yes. And we need to stop apologizing for celebrating life. We need to stop apologizing for wanting to protect an individual's right to build a business. Of entitlement mindset that's out there. We ought to be proud. We ought to be proud of our efforts to give local parents and communities a say on how their children are educated and protecting that fundamental right of private property ownership. Our party cannot be all things to all people. It can't be. And our loudest opponents on the left are never going to like us, so let's quit trying to curry favor with them. stand up. Let's speak with pride about our morals and our values and redouble our effort to elect more conservative Republicans. More conservative Republicans. Let's stop this American downward spiral. We're doing this, and it's happening because of too much spending, too much interfering, and too much apologizing. You know, in my mind, there's always been two kinds of politicians. Those who seek office to gain personal power, and those who seek office to give power back to the people. In state houses across this country and in the United States Congress, conservative politicians, conservative leaders are working to return power to the people, turning back the tide of this unchecked spending and unbridled interference in state affairs. You know, let me share something that's not a secret, but I'm telling you, they will never willingly give up an ounce of power in Washington, D.C. until the American people stand up and demand that we adopt reform. Never will they do that. You know, this administration may get up and mouth words about job creation, but they clearly consider enterprise a dirty word. And they think the fruits of our labor needs to be spread around. Or, the word I like to use from their core ideology is be redistributed. This endless overreaching by the federal government is what motivated me to write the book Fed Up last year. It's a discussion that is centered around the 10th Amendment. And its key phrase that powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. It's simple. It is elegant. And it's to the point. The framers of our Constitution knew all too well what happens when distant, too powerful governments hold sway over a nation. And that's why they decentralized power out of Washington, D.C. into the hands of the states. When states lead the way and they compete for ideas and resources and jobs, free market principles are allowed to act, and great things happen. The states are proof that the best leadership is closest to the people, not holed up in Washington, D.C., issuing these one-size-fits-all mandates that try to fit the entire country. Our goal is to displace the entrenched powers in Washington, restore the rightful balance between state and federal government. Listen, reach in your pocket right now. Take your phone out. It's okay. I just want you to take your phone out just a second. I want you to do something with me. If you really believe in what we're talking about here, if this whole concept of restoring the balance back to our country, decentralizing out of Washington, D.C., I want you to take your phone out and I want you to text something to the number 95613. I want you to put the word forward in there, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, and text it to 95613. Go ahead. I'll wait. There you go. Listen, and we're going to keep you apprised of what we're doing. We're going to keep you informed about our efforts to restore that crucial balance between the states and Washington, get America moving forward into the rightful role that our founding fathers knew would work. You know, in November of 2008, there were too many Americans who voted for some vague promises about hope and change. And they ended up with unprecedented deficits, unrestrained spending, and unacceptable unemployment. Americans voted for hope and got nothing but greater economic misery. In November 2010, Americans expressed their frustration with that misery, and they voted for conservative Republicans. In the United States Congress and state houses all across this country, we have seen Republican leaders turning the tide. November 2012 is not very far away. But we've got to be ready to elect Republican leaders up and down that ballot who will make government smaller so that opportunity can get bigger. I'm preaching to the choir here, I understand that. But America's greatness is not found in the size of its government. America's greatness resides in the hearts and the minds of our people, their innovative approaches to solving problems, and their ability to endure even in the toughest of times. If we want to stimulate the economy, spending, we need to unleash the private sector in America, the individual citizens who put their hours in at the job, who pay their taxes. They're doing the best to take care of their families. The good news is we got the wind at our back right now as Americans are waking up to the realities of their previous choices. They're setting things right with their votes. The challenges facing state leaders as we pursue these balanced budgets across the country, let me share with you, they're going to pale in comparison to what we're going to see in 2014 when that runaway train known as Obamacare hits our budgets. If Congress or the courts don't derail Obamacare, state budgets will crumble under the massive financial burden. The Republican majority in the House of Representatives is starting to slow that train down, but we need to keep sending them reinforcements to bring that effort to a clear conclusion. Together, we must keep America moving back to preeminence because our values and conservative ideas are the world's greatest hope. Like you, I still believe America is special. I see a stronger America built on the solid foundation of spiritual strength, of individual liberty, of self-determination. We must recapture that vision and begin the hard work of lighting the way for millions of Americans who are adrift in the sea of economic misery. Let's lead them to the safe harbor of American renewal and the shores of American exceptionalism. Let's anchor them in the future of good jobs in a country founded on great ideals. Restore the notion of a government of the people, for the people, by the people. If we don't do it, who will? If not now, when? There is no greater goal, no more crucial time than right now to take and make our stand to restore our economy, our families, our countries, and I happen to know that we can, and I know that you will. God bless you, and thank you all for being out here today, and God bless the United States of America.